Africa can be daunting, there's no doubt about that. Many people miss out on a life-changing safari experience purely due to fearing the unknown. I'm here to give you the full rundown of safari safety in Southern Africa, and I'll cover staying safe in Africa on your way to safari, safety while on safari, including animal comfort zones, animal behavior and exceptions, and some risk statistics to put it all into perspective. I'm Danielle Carsons. I'm a professional wildlife photographer in Africa from Africa, and I host photographers of all skill levels on photo safaris in Africa. Today I'm coming to you from the beautiful South Luangwa National Park in Zambia, where we're staying at Chikunto Safari Lodge, the perfect place to be talking about safaris in Africa. Over the years, I've hosted many travelers on safari whose partners sadly stayed at home due to their fear of going on safari in Africa. To me, as an African, it might sound bizarre, but I've come to realize that safety is a real concern for many people. I really hope to clarify things for you in this video and to put your mind at ease. I'll be covering in-transit safety briefly, and then I'll go on to on-safari safety. To get to your destination, you'll have to enter Africa via one of the large cities and then take another flight to a smaller town or transfer directly into the park or the reserve. This means that an overnight stay in the city is often necessary. My personal choice is to stay at a reputable airport hotel or at least in an easily accessible area, especially if it's just an overnight. It mitigates the risk of traffic and it gives you time to rest and relax before your safari starts. I know most of Africa has a poor reputation for safety, but you just have to be streetwise and vigilant, the same as in many other cities around the world. A few quick tips. Airport Wi-Fi is not always available or reliable in Africa, so make sure you have cell phone roaming. That'll make it much easier when you arrive. Generally, airports are situated a distance away from tourist attractions, so be willing to just spend the night at the hotel. If it's more than one night, then you might want to stay somewhere a little bit more suburban. Do your research about a specific area that you want to stay in. If your safari is booked through an operator, get their advice, or even better, book your accommodation through them. It doesn't cost you more, and they know what's available and what's safe. Leave your expensive jewelry at home and just look like a casual local without cameras and binoculars hanging around your neck. Honestly, nobody cares what you look like on safari. After the first game drive, your hair is dusty and blown all over the show, and the hard shower water won't do much for it anyway. Reliable public transport like trains and buses isn't common here, so be prepared to use private transport. A company that's affiliated with your accommodation or tour operator is definitely the way to go. Finally, you're on safari. As much as I love wildlife films and documentaries, they do tend to over-dramatize the ferocity of certain animals and their general attitude towards humans. Depicting dangerous species as bloodthirsty killing machines is common, and it's far from the truth. Just a quick note, when I talk about parks or reserves, I'll be referring to established ecotourism areas like South Luangwa here, in which only photographic tourism and no hunting takes place. So with that, let's cover a few important tips for on safari. Firstly, choose a lodge that is reputable, ethical, and has well-trained field guides or rangers. You want your guide to know animal behavior and be in control. Yes, indeed, you do pay for this, but trust me, it's worth it. I'll mostly refer to game drives, but in terms of walking safaris, trails guides who take you out on foot undergo specific and extensive training, and if you're able to go on a bushwalk, don't be shy to ask about their qualifications and experience. A walking safari is one of the most incredible experiences to be had out here, but be specific on who you choose to go with. The majority of wildlife will do their best to avoid conflict with humans. That is a fact. Animals here are habituated to vehicles, and you as a person inside a vehicle are not seen as a source of food or a threat, even when the vehicle has open sides. I promise. You and the vehicle are seen as a unit. When you suddenly stand up and separate yourself from this unit, that's a different story. Have a look at this illustration here. Animals have a comfort zone, a flight zone, and a fight zone. This is different when it comes to vehicles versus being on foot. That's very important. When you're in the comfort zone, the animal is relaxed and it goes about its business as if you're not there. Once you go into its flight zone, it will try to create space between you and itself. It will run or walk away, or its behavior will show that it's distressed or uncomfortable. And this is why it's so important for your guide to know animal behavior. If for some reason, hopefully accidentally, you encroach into the fight zone, which is really close, the animal might then attack as a last resort to defend itself, which is only natural. Here's an important example. You're in a game drive vehicle and you approach a lion. The flight zone is realistically 5 to 10 meters. The fight zone is 1 to 5 meters. So viewing them at a respectable distance of say 15 meters is completely safe. And you'll get better photos anyway. I tell you why in this video. Now, if you stand up in the vehicle while you're in the lion's comfort zone, things change rapidly. Now you're suddenly an identifiable human on foot. The lion's zones with the human on foot look like this. Suddenly you find yourself inside the fight zone. I hope that explains it a little bit better. In Africa, we're able to get much closer to wildlife than most other places in the world, and I know that that's a mind shift for many visitors. I'm not at all endorsing the closer the better mentality. It's just to give you a bit of perspective and to tell you what to expect. My preference is for wildlife to approach us at a distance that they feel comfortable at, always with the guests' and animals' safety as the main priority. Of course, there are exceptions. Injured or compromised wildlife might act unpredictably towards humans, but coming across them is extremely rare. Mothers with babies will be more protective and reactive, as anywhere else in the world. Loud noises scare wildlife. Make sure you keep your voice down when you're close to wildlife on an open vehicle. I've had a few close calls with guests suddenly making loud noises around animals. So, why do some guides carry rifles? Mostly it's company policy for insurance purposes and for the comfort of the guests. Personally, I've never met a guide who has had to use their rifle, but they are out there. So that's game drive safety. What about around the lodge? Dusk, dawn, and nighttime hold a higher risk because this is when predators are active, and there will always be a staff member accompanying you to your room at night and if you request during the day. They know what to listen for, they know what to look for and even smell, and they know how to act towards different animals. In your room, even if it has canvas sides, you are safe. Wildlife will not force themselves into your room. If your door is closed or zipped, you are 100% fine, and you can enjoy the sounds of the elephant munching away right outside your room. Most fatal incidents caused by wildlife in Africa are due to human-wildlife conflict. For example, when an elephant breaks out of a fenced park and gets into agricultural land or villages, or when locals run into wildlife on foot on their way to or from the river, etc. However, the risk for tourists is extremely low, close to zero. Putting it into numbers respectfully, you're tens of thousands of times, literally, more likely to be involved in a car accident globally than in a wild animal incident in Africa as a tourist. The big difference is that the wildlife incidents all make the news and the car accidents don't. Another calculation of probability to put out there. Say there are 2,500 safari lodges in Africa, and now I'm excluding self-drive safaris, and that's a huge chunk. Say each lodge has 2 vehicles out, that's conservative, and they go out twice a day for 50% of the year, so 180 days a year. That's 4 game drives a day for 180 days per lodge. That's 1.8 million game drives a year where people are viewing wild animals, and industry experts estimate that there are on average less than 2 wildlife-related tourist fatalities per year in Africa. Very importantly, I'm not discounting the fact that these incidents happen and they are extremely tragic, but I'm putting the risk into perspective for you. As a last piece of advice, be sensible and respect wildlife. But please don't be paranoid. you'll be missing out on so many amazing moments. If the elephant decides that it wants to calmly walk right by the vehicle and your guide is okay with it, just enjoy the moment. My favorite thing to tell guests is, if your guide is not panicking, you should not panic. To end off, I'd like to tell you that the safest I ever feel is when I'm in the bush on a large, remote wildlife reserve. Much safer than in any city. I guarantee you it's the best sleep that you'll ever get, unless the grunting of a hippo manages to disturb your peace. You're welcome to ask me any questions you have in the comments below, and I'll see you soon, hopefully on safari. Until then, bye-bye.